our 1956 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing. This car was restored in June of finished restoration, June of 2020 by the Mercedes-Benz Classic Center in Irvine, California. Finished in DB190 graphite gray with a red interior. And we're just getting on the highway here. I'm in second gear and 45 miles an hour. So smoothly and tracks absolutely perfectly. So this car was restored to the highest level you could possibly restore a 300 SL. It was a complete body off restoration, frame up, done by the Mercedes-Benz Classic Center, which is owned by the factory. I think this one is by a long shot the best one we've ever had, and you know, it really goes to show the details of what they go into to make it exactly the way it was when it left the factory. From a driving standpoint, this one has a sport suspension, which was only offered in the alloy Gullwing as standard equipment, and then the standard 300 SL Gullwing you could install the sport suspension. This one has that installed. It also has the sport cam, so a little hotter out of the hole, has a better top end. It definitely feels faster, but right now I'm in fourth gear, 3,000 RPM, 72 miles per hour, and you know, it just drives exactly as you would expect it to drive after a full restoration. This car's had about 500 miles put on it by the Classic Center since the restoration, and then this is the first time I've actually driven it. We've had the car in our inventory since October, unadvertised, but finally got out in it today, and I gotta tell you, it's a huge delight to drive it. And I think the big details on this car, we're gonna go through in a walk around video, so we can open the trunk, open the hood, go through everything, and just show you exactly what they did to make sure that it is exactly the way it was when it left the factory. There's nothing that was taken as a liberty, which, you know, there's plenty of restorers out there that do great work, but everyone has cat plating that they do a certain way, or, you know, this dash which isn't to be chrome, that's polished aluminum, stuff like that. You'll notice each restorer does little things differently. The rubber floor mats, often restorers will put in the carpeted carpet just like you have in the center tunnel, because they think it looks nicer, this, that, and the other thing. So there's lots of little stuff that you can go through and say that's a liberty of each restorer. But this car, everything is precise. It's exactly the way it was when it was new in 1955, 56, and that's really what the Classic Center does differently than any other, is they make sure the cars are the way they were, to make sure they drive perfectly. There's nothing about the drive of this car that you could complain about. Little things like a little wind whistle in seals and whatnot is going to happen on any 60-year-old car, but for the most part, it's been great. No weird sounds, no weird idiosyncrasies that you got to work around. It shifts well. The clutch, the brakes, everything tracks really well when you're slowing down, when you're speeding up and downshifting. All the heating system works properly, all the gauges work properly. You know, in a classic car, obviously you get in and you want to make sure your fuel gauge works. So we just went and topped it up with $100 worth of fuel to make sure that the fuel gauge is working properly. It is. All your oil pressure, oil temperature, water temperature are all correct. The clock is working. So we'll just pull over up here. We're going to go down a bit of a windy road that's got some bumps and whatnot, so that you can really hear that there's no rattles or clanks as you're going down a windy road that has all the bumps that are going to show off any noises if they are there. So we'll come back to you in just a minute and go through that. one of our favorite bumpy roads here in Victoria, British Columbia, and this is sort of a road that we take any vintage car down just to shake it down and see where the rattles or squeaks going to come from, if they have any. So this is a good test to the quality of a restoration, because where you're going to hear most of it is in suspension. Very fast. I've driven a lot of 300 SLs in my day, and this is definitely one of the fastest 300 SLs I've ever driven. And obviously a fresh restoration, fresh motor, sport cam goes a long way to be sure it's going to be the quickest.